We're talking about the fallacy of supply and demand.
Ooh, that's a good one. Gets you thinking, right?
Right. It's like that Econ 101 idea that the more people want something and the less there is of it, the more it's worth. Seems logical on the surface.
Yeah, totally. But
Yeah,
then you look around and see people dropping hundreds of dollars on designer sneakers or waiting months for a limited edition whatever.
exactly. It's like, where does that logic go out the window?
That's where the fallacy comes in. Traditional economics doesn't always account for the sheer power of human psychology.
Ah, psychology. Always messing things up. So you're saying we're not as rational as we like to think we are?
Well, let's just say our decisions aren't always based on pure logic and objective value. Our perceptions can be easily swayed by things like emotions, social pressure, and, well, clever marketing.
Okay, starting to feel a little less confident in my shopping skills now.
Think of it this way. Understanding this fallacy is actually empowering. It helps you see through the smoke and mirrors, make more conscious decisions, and maybe even save some money in the process.
All right, I'm on board. Let's break this down. What are some of the key drivers of this fallacy?
Well, one of the biggest culprits is something called price anchoring. It's this sneaky little mental trick where the first price we see for a product becomes a benchmark in our minds.
Like if I see a pair of jeans for $200 and then another pair for $100, that second pair suddenly seems like a steal even if it's still overpriced.
Exactly. That initial $200 price point sets an anchor, even if it's totally inflated. It distorts our perception of what's a reasonable price, and we might end up overspending without even realizing it.
It's like our brains are playing tricks on us.
In a way, they are. But by understanding these tricks, we can start to play smarter. We can question those initial anchors, do our research, and make sure we're not just falling for a clever marketing ploy.
Okay, so price anchoring. Got it. What else is messing with our perception of value?
Our emotions, of course. Excitement, fear of missing out, the desire to belong, these can all inflate the perceived value of a product.
Ooh, FOMO. I know that feeling all too well. It's like that urge to buy something just because everyone else is, even if I don't really need it or can't even afford it.
And that's exactly what marketers are banking on. They create a sense of scarcity, hype things up, and make us feel like we'll regret it if we don't jump on the bandwagon.
It's like they're playing puppet master with our emotions,
Yeah.
and we're the ones dancing to their tune.
It can feel that way for sure. But again, awareness is key. Once you recognize those emotional triggers, you can step back and ask yourself, do I really want this, or am I just being swayed by the hype?
Right. Got to check those impulses at the door. What other psychological forces are at play here?
Well, we humans are social creatures, and we often look to others to validate our choices, especially when we're unsure. That's where social proof comes in.
Social proof. So, like, if we see a bunch of people buying something or raving about a restaurant, we're more likely to assume it must be good.
Exactly. It's that whole if everyone else is doing it, it must be worthwhile mentality. And it can be a powerful influence on our spending habits.
So how do we know when to follow the crowd and when to trust our own gut?
That's the million-dollar question. It's about being discerning. Are those people whose opinions you're valuing actually informed, or are they just caught up in the hype?
Right, got to do your own research, read reviews, and not just blindly follow the herd.
Exactly. And sometimes the most popular thing isn't necessarily the best. It's about finding what truly aligns with your own needs and preferences.
Okay, starting to feel a little more empowered already. But we've talked a lot about the negative side of this fallacy, how it can lead us to overspend. Are there any positive aspects to understanding it?
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, and understanding this fallacy can actually benefit you in some surprising ways.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Tell me more.
Well, for starters, this knowledge can give you more negotiating power. When you're aware of how anchoring and other biases can inflate prices, you're less likely to accept the first offer and more likely to push for a better deal.
So it's like knowing the rules of the game gives you a strategic advantage.
Exactly. You can anticipate those tactics and counter them effectively. And that can apply to all sorts of situations, not just shopping.
This is starting to feel less like a consumer psychology lesson and more like a secret weapon.
I like the way you think. And this knowledge isn't just beneficial for shoppers, it can also be incredibly valuable for business owners.
Oh, right. If you're selling something, understanding how consumers perceive value is crucial.
Exactly. It's about using those psychological principles ethically to present your products or services in a way that highlights their genuine value.
So it's like we're using the same psychological tools, but instead of exploiting people, we're using them to create a more transparent and fair marketplace.
That's the goal. It's about using this knowledge responsibly and creating a win-win for both businesses and consumers.
All right, now I'm really intrigued. But before we dive deeper into those strategies, let's explore some real-world examples of how this fallacy plays out in different industries.
I'm game. Let's see how those companies use these tactics to make us believe a bottle of water is worth $5, or why we're willing to pay a premium for a phone that does essentially the same things as a less expensive model.
Perfect.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
ready to get into the nitty-gritty of how this fallacy shows up in our everyday lives. Let's do it.
Okay, so let's jump right into some examples. Let's start with something we all encounter regularly: coffee. You walk into a fancy coffee shop, suddenly dropping $5 on a latte seems normal.
Oh, yeah, it's like my brain just switches off like, oh, yeah, this is the price of a fancy coffee now.
Right. And it's not just the coffee itself. It's the ambiance, the brand experience, the whole shebang. They've created this perception of value.
Like you're paying for the feeling, not just the caffeine.
Exactly. And it's the same with bottled water. Why are people paying a premium for water that's essentially the same as tap water?
It's the branding, right? Like somehow natural spring water sounds fancier and healthier.
Spot on. They've tapped into our desire for purity, for something special. And we're willing to pay for that feeling, even if it's not logically justified.
So coffee and water, those are everyday examples. But where else do we see this fallacy in action? What about something a little more luxurious?
Oh, you mean like those designer handbags that cost thousands of dollars?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Is it really all about the quality of the materials?
Well, quality plays a role, sure. But a big part of it is the fallacy at work. They create a sense of exclusivity, associating their products with celebrities and aspirational lifestyles.
So it's like you're buying into a certain image, a status symbol.
Exactly. And they leverage social proof, showing their bags on the arms of celebrities, making us think, hey, if they have it, I want it too.
It's like they're selling us a piece of the dream, not just a bag.
Right. And that dream can be very expensive. And let's not forget about good old price anchoring. When you see a handbag priced at 5 grand, suddenly 2,000 seems like a steal.
It's crazy how our brains work, or maybe don't work, sometimes. So we've talked coffee, we've talked handbags. What about something a little more techy?
You mean like smartphones? Why are people willing to pay a premium for the latest iPhone when there are perfectly good, less expensive options available?
Yeah. Is it really all about brand loyalty, or is there more to it?
Brand loyalty definitely plays a role, but the fallacy is also at work here. Apple's cultivated an image of innovation, sleek design. They've created a whole ecosystem, a feeling of belonging.
Like, you're not just buying a phone, you're buying into a lifestyle, a tribe.
Right, and that perception of exclusivity comes with a price tag. And of course, there's always the latest and greatest model, always something new to crave.
It's like they're playing on our desire to keep up with the Joneses tech style.
You got it. And those upgrade cycles are getting shorter and shorter. So we've covered coffee, handbags, smartphones. It seems like this fallacy is everywhere.
It's a bit overwhelming, right? Like, how do we even begin to navigate this consumer minefield?
Well, awareness is a good start, as we've been discussing, but it also helps to understand the specific tactics businesses use. Let's dig into some of those, shall we?
Yeah, let's get tactical. Break it down for us. Okay, so last we left off, we were about to delve into some fascinating research, something about Social Security numbers and auctions. I'm intrigued.
Right. It's a classic experiment that demonstrates the power of arbitrary anchors. You see, behavioral economist Dan Ariely, he wanted to show how easily our perception of value can be manipulated.
Okay, but how do Social Security numbers fit into all of this?
Well, in this experiment, participants were asked to write down the last 2 digits of their Social Security numbers.
Interesting, but I still don't see the connection.
The catch is, right after, they had to bid on various items in an auction. Think wine, chocolates, you name it.
Wait, so what do their Social Security numbers have to do with bidding on items?
Absolutely nothing. That's the whole point. Those numbers are completely arbitrary, meaningless in the context of valuing those items.
So it was a way to test if those random numbers would actually influence their bids. Sneaky.
Exactly. And the results were pretty wild. People with higher Social Security numbers consistently bid significantly higher for the same items.
No way, you're kidding.
Nope, it's true. Even though those numbers had zero relevance to the actual value of the items, they acted as anchors, unconsciously influencing people's willingness to pay.
So just seeing a higher number, even if it's totally unrelated, can make us think something is worth more. Wow, our brains are easily tricked.
It's a testament to the power of suggestion, right? And this happens all the time in marketing. Think about those suggested retail prices or compare-at prices you see.
Right, they're setting a high anchor to make the actual price seem like a bargain, even if it's not. Sneaky, sneaky.
It's all about framing and perception, but now that we know about it, we can start to see through those tactics.
Exactly. Knowledge is power. So, what can we do to protect ourselves from these psychological traps? Give us the tools.
Well, first and foremost, awareness. Recognizing these biases is half the battle. Then, question those anchors. Don't just blindly accept the first price you see.
Do your research. Shop around.
Exactly. Think critically about the value you're getting. Don't let your emotions or clever marketing dictate your spending. Make conscious choices that align with your needs and budget.
I love that. It's about taking back control, being a mindful consumer.
Right. It's empowering.
Mm.
And remember, understanding these concepts can also be incredibly beneficial for those on the other side of the equation.
Right. The business owners. If you're selling something, knowing how consumers perceive value is crucial.
It's about using these psychological principles ethically. You can highlight the genuine value of your product or service without resorting to manipulation.
So instead of tricking people into buying, you're helping them understand why your product is worth their money.
Exactly. Transparency, honesty, and a focus on providing real value. That's how we can use this knowledge for good.
This has been so eye-opening. It's like we've pulled back the curtain on the world of consumer psychology.
And hopefully our listeners are feeling a little more empowered to navigate that world, both as shoppers and maybe even as future business owners.
So to sum it all up, the fallacy of supply and demand highlights how our perceptions of value are influenced by more than just logic and objective factors.
Our emotions, social influences, and even seemingly random information can all play a role.
But armed with this knowledge, we can make more conscious choices, resist those sneaky marketing tactics, and ultimately create a more ethical and fulfilling marketplace for everyone.
Well said. It's about making informed decisions that align with our values and our wallets.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the fascinating world of the fallacy of supply and demand. It's been an incredible journey, and we hope you'll join us again for another insightful exploration soon.
Until next time, keep those critical thinking caps on and happy spending.
But spend wisely. See you all next time.